Hi everybody, this is Bee and I'm in the Temple of Caradwen in Glastonbury, Avalon, and today I'm with a lovely lady called Melanie who has written an amazing book, and I wanted to give her the opportunity and to introduce her book and talk a little bit about why she wrote the book, because it's a very interesting story. You all know that I talk about COVID a lot and how it has changed the world, and here and now we have a really brilliant example of what good came out of COVID. So hello Melanie, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. And you?
I'm brilliant.
Good.
It's raining in Glastonbury as always. So I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about the book, because obviously I read the book and there was things that came up that I thought the listeners would appreciate hearing about. So the first thing I want to ask you, what was the inspiration behind the book?
Right, well, it's quite mixed inspiration. Originally, I was going to write a book about a modern day Lilith.
Oh.
But, but actually quite a few people have done that. And then I was reading a story, it was by Kate Humble, about, she does a lot of walking and who she meets on her walks. And she talked about how she met this man who was walking with his dog, and he was very anxious and they didn't really quite know where they were going, but I think his dog had bitten somebody or something like that, and he was terrified that his dog would be taken away under the Dangerous Dogs Act, so they just left home and ran away. So I thought, because Lilith was fleeing from Eden and this dog and this man were fleeing as well, so I put Lilith and the dog together. That didn't really work. So then I decided to just concentrate on the dog, because I thought, well, this is the whole, dogs have all these stories. All my dogs have been rescued. So they have all these stories about fleeing and trying to get a life for themselves, as Lilith was trying to.
I mean, she's one of my favorite goddesses, and we have, we work here with the dark goddess, 5 dark goddesses, and Lilith is one of them. And she's so incredibly misunderstood, and so are dogs. And one of the things that broke my heart after COVID is so many people got dogs during COVID because it gave them an excuse to do something outside.
Yes, exactly.
And then after COVID, they decided they were inconvenient and they had to go. And it's a dog is a soul, it's a being, it's somebody who loves you, So I think it was unconscionable in my opinion. So thank you for that. I love that. And I have heard about these people who put dogs down because of the day. Of course, when dogs are, not very well behaved, we have to do something. But there's often a reason behind there, isn't there? Yeah. So the readership that you are trying to attract, what would you want? First of all, what made you? You just said about how you wrote the book. I'm going to get that on in a minute, from a dog's perspective. And it is actually in the dog's voice, isn't it?
Yes.
So from the dog's point of view. And why did you, rather than put it in third person, why did you put it in first person? You put yourself into this dog's mind and soul. Why was that? Why did you feel that was important?
Because I felt, again, like you were saying with the lockdowns, and how people betrayed their dogs really at the end of it. And it's this idea that dogs are just a commodity, and like I said, they're not. They're a soul. They are a sentient being, like all animals are. And I just felt so strongly that when these dogs were being put into shelters because the people no longer wanted them, I thought I've got to give the dogs a voice. I mean, obviously it's coming through a human. There's something I can do about that. But I just felt it was time that as humans that we need to think outside ourselves, but we also at the same time we need to understand that we're all part of nature, we're all part of a bigger picture, and that every one of us, every animal on the planet has a voice, has something to say, has a feeling, has a need. So I felt the only way I could do that was doing it through the dog's voice.
And I mean, these dogs that were brought to these people during COVID, and they thought they were loved, and they loved in return. A dog loves very deeply. A cat can love and leave you. They love you, but they're not, But a dog, once you are bonded with that dog, to reject them and betray them like that.
Exactly. I mean, it's just sort of like, it's this not understanding that they do have feelings of their own. It's not, sort of like, oh, well, they're only a dog, it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. And we know that. I mean, even scientists now and politicians admit that, all animals are sentient, and we have to respect that. And I mean, there are some good changes that are happening at the moment. I mean, they're a bit, like everyone says, yes, but there's no timeline. So when, in a cage, when are these cages actually going to be stopped? When is vivisection actually going to be stopped? It's all very well saying, well, we're going to phase it out, but you could be phasing it out in 30 years' time.
100 if some people will be believed. And I mean, we all know now from a scientific point of view that testing on animals doesn't necessarily have any, impact on human health.
No, I mean, it's quite, I mean, the point is that science is supposed to be logical, but actually vivisection isn't logical because you're taking an animal as a model for humans when there's so many physiological differences, even between us primates. I mean, I remember a vet telling me once, this is an extreme case, when they were trying to make a drug to treat appendicitis in humans, and they were testing it on dogs, but dogs don't have an appendix.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's the way this world works. Yeah. So, what do you want? What do you most want people to take away from this book?
A greater understanding of dogs, that how we humans, we very often, we don't mean to be cruel. We don't think we're being cruel, but because of this lack of understanding of being able to put ourselves in the position of other animals, we don't really fully appreciate our impact on them. And I hope people will take away, oh yeah, I need to think about how I am with dogs, that what a dog's response to me means and how I should understand them, and work with that, rather than always thinking the dog in relation to the human, but think of the human in relation to the dog. What does the dog want? What is the dog thinking?
So my grandson, I've got 3 grandchildren, one is 6 and 2 of them are 4, and we are teaching them, one of the things is about to respect, especially a dog's space, and especially when we're out and about, because a lot of people take their dogs shopping, and very often it's not an environment a dog should be in.
I know. You can see people getting angry with their dogs, and thinking they didn't ask to come out shopping. It's not part of their life.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things, when you have lots and lots of people, lots of smells and all this, it confuses the dog, it frightens the dog, and the dog that's frightened will lash out. So we teach Rowan to hold out his hand so the dog can smell him. But before he does anything like that, he asks the owner, is the dog kind? Does the dog welcome my presence? Because one of the things is, and not all owners know, and I mean, some owners are quite sharp with Rowan, because they say, don't touch my dog, and he's been taught not to do that. But I'm glad the owners say this dog does not like being told.
I mean, I think also because people are so frightened now of their dogs being mistaken as being dangerous and what that means. So it's sort of like, I mean, all my dogs have actually been very difficult dogs. They're all rescues. They all came with all sorts of emotional trauma. And they were difficult, and there were certain times that some places I couldn't take them. I mean, they were more difficult with dogs than people, but yeah, you get people who just, oh, I love dogs, and they want to cuddle them. I think, how would you like someone to come up and do that to you?
I know, it's a bit like, one of my pet hates is when people try to touch a pregnant woman's belly. You're like, excuse me, step away. Anyway, one of the things that I love the most about the dog is that there are dragons in it. So what part do the dragons play in the book?
Right, well, I do love dragons, and I do look to them a lot for inspiration and advice. And I wanted, obviously, they will say you've got to get the first line right in the book. And I was at the Chalice Well. I often go there to connect with dragons, although you can do it everywhere, of course. And I just said, okay, dragons, I can't think of how to start this book. What shall I do? And they told me, and I thought afterwards, is this a bit of a joke? Because they do have a sense of humour, don't they?
They do. Sometimes at our cost.
Yes.
Especially when we need to get over ourselves.
Yeah. So I thought, well, I don't know, but I think it's a great way to start the book, so that's what I'm doing. And I do feel, well, it's a very emotional connection with dragons, isn't it? And you do feel that they're there, and especially, I do get a lot of very young dragons coming in, and you know, are very playful. I mean, it's like the other day I was in the Chalice Well, and there was one playing hide and seek with me, and so yeah. So, but I mean, although Lily's a bit dismissive of the dragons, oh well, everyone's talking about them, which in Glastonbury is true, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they inspired, and they kept me going throughout the book.
And while people can't see the temple right now, but right above us is a whole shelf of dragons. We do love our dragons, and Chalice Well in particular is a place where we. You're right, my lovely. So yeah, Chalice Well is in particular a place where we can feel the dragon energy. You okay? So yeah, we're back here, and we talked about dragons. We talked about how the book was also helped by the guides, which are the dragons are our guides here, and we work very strongly with them here in Glastonbury and here in the temple. So the bit that intrigues me as well is, why is the dog called Lily?
Right, well, because it's a kind of derivative of Lilith.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I know the usual goddess with dogs is Hecate, or, you know, but I do often see Lilith at the side of a shoreline, you know, in the seaside, by the
right,
sea.
yeah.
Yeah, and she always has, she's alone, but she has her animals around her, you know, because she shied away from humans, and, you know, in a way, she could tell when a human being wasn't good. And to this day, she is very shy with humans. Right. And so are the dragons, you know.
Yeah.
I think the dragons only communicate with the people whom they trust. You know, we often get messages, but they really don't like humans as a whole, because we are quite a cruel species, really. And post-COVID, and so this book is also very much about COVID. And the messages that were coming through during COVID was, you have two choices as humanity. You can go, here's the threshold, you can learn from COVID and do better and be more in community, more in unity, more in love, more in care, or you can go into that selfishness. And unfortunately for me, seeing the world as it is at the moment is very much about selfishness.
Yeah, it seems to have got worse since COVID.
It certainly has, because it's pushed us back into this fear of dying, and the fact is that as soon as you're born, you die. So, but this book, this is why I thought it was really interesting that the book was a dog who dances through COVID. I don't think we actually mentioned the title yet. That dog who dances through COVID. And you know, a lot of people sit here in the temple and they talk about COVID and they talk about the time and how it was for them, and there was often a mix of the quite joyful.
For some people, yes.
Yeah, and because, you know, people went into quiet time, they went into silence, they were incredibly creative, like yourself. During COVID, a lot of good came, and I think those are the people who are reasonably balanced, or who didn't lose somebody perhaps. But yeah, Lilith, interesting goddess. So the things that happen to Lily, do those really happen to dogs?
Yes. As I said, there's a lot of misunderstanding of dogs, especially with children. Again, I think it's partly the parents' fault. They don't. The fault's not a good word. Lack of understanding on the parents' part, that they don't teach children how to be with dogs and how to respect them. And like when she's with what I call the horrible girl, the parents should be telling the child how to behave with the dog, but they don't. So it ends up very badly. And I've seen this happen with a friend. I think her partner had this French Mastiff, which is just enormous dogs. And she allowed her little boy to put his face next to the dog's face. And said, you really shouldn't do that. She said, oh, no, she likes it. I said, no, she's tolerating him. But one day he'll do it, when maybe she doesn't feel great, and she'll snap. And a dog's mouth that size could snap his face off. And
we've seen this in the news all the time, where people have where babies die, where children die, because people are not aware that a dog is a wolf.
Yeah, exactly.
Right in the bottom of it, the dogs and cats. I mean, we have a new kitten and it's taken a while now, a couple of months now, to teach Rowan, my oldest grandson, that there's a difference between playing and when the cat doesn't feel safe anymore with him. And there is something that we can teach our children. And actually, as we're teaching our children how to treat an animal, we actually also preparing them for life by teaching them how to treat humans.
I think the problem in the world, I mean, it's more in sort of like Western style societies, cultures, is this idea, I think it's what is called the mechanization. It's a kind of mechanic thing. The idea is that there's nature and there are humans, and that we can control nature, and that everything must bend to our desires, our needs. And of course, we're seeing the consequence of that way of thinking in nature and with what's happening to the planet. But I think it's also in our own personal relationships with other humans and our relationships with animals. Oh no, you're a dog, you do it my way.
Yeah. And we can learn a lot. I mean, when you think humanity is the last Joe on the planet, so our teachers were the plants, were the trees, were the animals. You know, we learn from the animals. We know that part of our healing, what plants can be eaten, what plants shouldn't be eaten, and all this was the teachings of the animals. So we should honor that, absolutely. So, who is the story meant for?
Right, well, originally it was going to be for children between the ages of 9 and 12. But a friend read it and she said, well, actually, I think the language is just too difficult for them, and some of the concepts. And then towards the end, the young boy Tom attempts suicide. I mean, he's saved by Lily. And you've got to be so careful these days. Someone's child commits suicide and they've read the book. Oh, it's your fault.
Yeah.
You've got to be so careful of these things. So. And it's largely been read by adults anyway, and I think it's sort of like probably more really for 16-year-olds and anybody up to 100 or over, really.
Although I will say, I mean, and as a psychotherapist, I have experienced children as young as 10 years old committing suicide, and if the message is that there is somebody listening, whether it is a human or a dog, or it is also helpful to them. I think nowadays we underestimate children a little bit, and I'm not just saying that, but when I read, for example, books by David Walliams or his Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, I mean, some of those concepts are quite highbrow.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe parents could read at least extracts of the book to the children.
Yes, yeah.
It could be a teaching tool.
I think it depends on the children as well. If they with an adult who's sensitive and knows their child, I think they could. We use these age groups, but it's only a guideline, isn't it?
Absolutely, because kids, I sometimes talk to my grandson, he's 6 years old, and I know that he knows things these days. They grow up a lot faster because of technology, because of everything that's been put into the world, television and all this. They're different to who we were at one point. But anyway, I really, really appreciate you coming in, and what I'd love you to do now is perhaps read your first chapter for us.
Yeah.
And then people can get a sense of what the book is like.
All right. Okay, so chapter 1, A Happy Beginning. In the beginning, there were dragons, but for now that's another story, as I'm here to talk about dogs, and anyway, everybody is talking about dragons. Obviously, I am speaking through a human voice, although I'm not sure how reliable they are, as I do not know much human language, but having lived with humans, I can identify some words as other dogs can, some up to 500 human words. But you humans, you do not understand canine talk, so I have to use a human to communicate with you. We dogs are here, there, and everywhere. But do you really know us? According to you humans, all we understand are commands from you, and that we are very loyal, affectionate, and can be trained to serve you in various ways. But you humans and we dogs evolved together, though not quite at the beginning of life, as originally we were some kind of wolf that became extinct. But we all lived on the same land, that is, my ancestors and your ancestors, the same land that the dinosaurs once walked on. But now life is not always good between us. What do I mean? We would protect you, and you would feed us. We sat by the same fires, we drank from the same water, we slept under the stars together and hunted together. But now, although some of you do live happily side by side with your dog and say things like, I wouldn't be without them, or they are my everything, that is not the case for most dogs living on this planet right now, and it has not been for a long time. Let me tell you my story to explain. My mother let me know that I danced soon after I was born, much to the annoyance of my brothers and sisters, and my mother, of course. I just could not be still. Though you humans say puppies experience a lot of excitement, I did this for sheer joy. Left paw forward, right paw forward, left paw back, right paw back, wagtail left, wagtail right, jump to the left, jump to the right, repeat twice. I knew how to instruct myself even then. Out into the world I came, just like the others. I remember being greeted by my mother's warm tongue, licked all over me. I sucked on her to my heart's delight, utterly content. My brothers and sisters, all 8 of us, lying side by side, all wanting our mum and food, of course. I remember the warmth of her body. Happy days. I don't know where she is now, or my brothers and sisters, or indeed if they are alive or dead, but that's how it is for us dogs. I just know that she always made us feel safe and loved, although I did not know at the time it was safe, just that there was nothing to be frightened about. It was later I found out how frightening and unsafe life could be. But back to puppyhood. Life was fun with my brothers and sisters, as we would play all day and snuggle up together at night. Our mother sometimes disciplined us for being naughty, but we didn't care too much because we would all be in trouble together. After a few weeks, we could go outside and run around in a garden that had lots of wonderful smells. We dogs have around 220 million nose receptors, whereas you humans have only around 5 million nose receptors. So you can perhaps imagine how amazing being in a garden for the first time was for us. Sometimes we could smell the scent of foxes that had been in our garden at night. The cheek of it, playing in our garden. But sadly, one by one, my brothers and sisters left, taken by what seemed happy people. Our mother didn't seem too upset. In fact, she was getting a bit tired of us. We were hard work for her, and she wanted to rest and get her life back. One day, when I was the only one left and thinking maybe I could stay with my mum forever, the woman of the house started cleaning and tidying everywhere, as she did when people were coming to the house. She also looked at me in a way that she had not before, sort of sad. A couple entered the room. The woman seemed nice, but the man I knew was trouble. I could smell his anger and fear of me. The woman picked me up and held me in her arms to nurse me. She stroked me and whispered sweet things to me. I struggled to go down because I had an overwhelming desire to dance for her. Left paw forward, left paw back, right paw forward, right paw back, jump to the left, jump to the right, wagtail left and wagtail right. It amused them all terribly. The woman of the house said, yes, she likes to do that. We do not know why or how it started. Oh, I want her so much, the woman said to the man. He smiled nervously at her and then looked at the floor. I was beginning to like the woman, but the man I was starting to dislike more than I already did. But the sale took place anyway. As the woman picked me up, my real mother was allowed to lick me one last time, and that was the last time I ever saw her.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
That is such a beautiful start of the story, and yet it also reminds me of something that I really, really want to highlight here, is I don't like breeders.
Yes, I know, there is a problem.
I don't like breeders, and I think they should be regulated. And it is, when you think about it, if we believe that every animal has a soul like us human beings, and that's what the Druids that work here believe, that every soul is equal, then having to be sold away from your mother is no different than slavery was when the children were taken from their mothers, from their human mothers. And haven't we learned in the 21st century that is so cruel and so horrible. I mean, I know you can't, have 8 dogs in your house or whatever, but it is something that, especially the people who are allowed to take them away with them. If you were to rescue a dog, and you have rescued dogs, so same as me, you have to really pass very stringent rules, don't you? You have to have a house visit. You have to not work too much. The dog is not to be allowed to be alone too much. They're very, very stringent with some of them, not all of them. But
I think they all are now, actually. I mean, you could argue sometimes I mean, I do get annoyed sometimes with, like the RSPCA and then Dogs Trust saying, oh, we can't find homes for these dogs. And thinking, yeah, but you do make it a bit too difficult. It's a sort of like, you're retired, oh, well, you're too old, you won't be able to look after them. You're at work, oh, well, they'll be on their own all the time. I mean, yes, that's true, but if you care about your dog, you will find a way around. But yes, you're right, and I've met a number of breeders, and there's some worse than others. I mean, there are some who will have the dog pregnant when they don't even know if they're going to have any buyers for the puppies.
Oh, that's most of the time, I think.
I mean, I've known one or two that do wait till they've got a waiting list. But then you're using your animal as a breeding product, not as a sentient being. And it's sort of well, I love dogs, but it's just this very strange thing that there are actually sort of like recognised syndromes with some. You get it a lot with women with cats. They'll have hundreds of cats in their home and they can't look after them. But I love them.
Yeah, and actually they're harming them more than anything. Yeah. And I mean, one of the things I do agree with as well is, like you said yourself, having a dog with a very young child. I think when you have a very young child, your child is your priority. You don't have the time. A dog is really another child. So, as is a cat, we have the cat now, and you have to walk them. And that's, a lot of people get fed up with walking them, especially when it's in the, and I hate, I will be honest, there's not a lot of things I hate in the world, but handbag dogs.
Oh yes, well, it's not the poor dog's fault, it's the silly humans.
It's, and the horrible experiments they make, so to make the dog the way that we want the dog to look, and it's just hideous. It's all a bit too much.
It's interesting, isn't it? But as our society, we're so, again, it's this bending nature to our egos. I mean, we see the same with women, don't we? Women having all these treatments to fit in, and it's and then those are the kind of women that would have handbag dogs as well very often.
Absolutely, the dog becomes a fashion item, and you're absolutely right. So I totally agree. So I can say that part of the story is quite sad, but it is also absolutely spot on, because it does raise consciousness about the plight of dogs.
Thank you.
In this time, but also it brings with the character that the dog has, it brings it more into our consciousness that the dog is actually far more, it thinks far more than it does, because you really put yourself into that. And there are people who say that when the calves are taken away from the cows, that they actually seen tears in the eyes of the cows.
Yes, and the cows let out this almighty scream.
Yeah. And so we as a humanity have got to stop pretending that animals are there for that's a very, I'm sorry to say, Catholic point of view, not necessarily church point of view, but also a very...
Well, it is. I mean, this whole idea that that we're not nature, but everything is. It does go back to the Old Testament.
Yeah. So let's hope that the book is there for everybody who needs to hear that story, and perhaps we should hand that out in every shelter before they get the dog. Read that book first. But it's a bit like, but it's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank
really
you so much. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you.
And I look forward to lots of people reading the book.
I hope so.
And take in what they say, what you say, and it's lovely to have you here, Melanie.
Thank
Take care.
Thank you.